James Hall joins us for his yearly bash at this competition, and look at it. What do I say? Well, I imagine you just go to his channel and you'll be able to watch a video that goes on for half an hour that tells you all about how he did it.
Well, don't mind if I do. Yes, hello, Wasteland. Yes, and today we are looking at how I made and the lessons I learned from making Bozo's Big Top, the single largest Gaslands vehicle I've made so far. My entry into Gaslands UK's Car of the Month competition for August 2021, the Mono Wheel Challenge. So when the competition got announced, I knew immediately, okay, so it's got to be a single wheel vehicle. Single wheel, very important, only one wheel. Well, let's make this the biggest wheel available, and let's make it based on something in real life, because you'd see all the usual people going, oh, well, I've got a monster truck wheel, no, I've got a dump truck wheel, oh, I've got a wheel that doesn't technically exist yet. I was like, I don't want that, I want something that does exist, and also fits in with, you know, the kind of clown stuff that I like to make from time to time. So I visited my local hobby shop, and of course they have these wonderful floral wire hangers for a solid price of £1.50 each, which is just remarkably cheap. 12 inches across, they are a fantastic foundation to work up from if you are thinking of trying to make a gigantic Ferris wheel. And yeah, this is not going to be your usual hobby video where I show you the exact step-by-step process for making it, because it would take hours, and I didn't record the entire step-by-step process. I recorded bits and pieces, things that I thought were relevant. I mean, in terms of the actual complexity of this project, I most certainly flew too close to the sun with this one. I think in hindsight I should have just stuck to my guns, similar to what I did last year in 2020, and just go for a fancy car rather than a 10 to 12 car monstrosity featuring only a single giant wheel. So, okay, for people who are looking at this video and they don't know what on earth's going on, imagine a Ferris wheel, but instead of the usual little cabins that you would rest in, imagine it's cars. And imagine the Ferris wheel has broken its foundation and now it's rolling with reckless abandon. And also imagine that in the Wasteland, people captured it, they rigged up a train engine to it, and now they use it for war. So, needlessly to say, I'm skipping through a lot of the construction. I mean, there are no real Ferris wheel kits at this scale that you can just buy and put together, so this all had to be done by hand. And because of that, I think a big part of this is you are making mistakes that ordinarily you wouldn't make. You're making decisions that you've never had to make before, and you're trying to invent techniques that previously there just wasn't anything for you to look at, for you to fall back on. I think in this competition we only had myself and two others actually attempt to make a Ferris wheel as an entrant. I, of course, will always say that mine is the biggest at just over 12 inches long. What can I say? You gotta love a foot long. But I think certainly as the naysayers who will see my entry and will watch this video, and at the time watched me trying to make it, would say,
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
my response to that then is, of course,
creation is an act of sheer will.
So I think looking at this project, it was too complex. It was too needlessly over the top. I was trying to do something that really in a month isn't a lot of time. Towards the end of actually figuring this out, I was already thinking of, well, if I was going to do this again, I know how I would improve it. I mean, one of the biggest ones was I had to use just whatever kind of cars I could scrounge up that looked good, which is fine. But there comes a point where you go, oh, I've done this all wrong. So let me show you guys. Okay, so on the left is the wheel that I made initially. That seemed like a good idea. That seemed like it worked. You get that, yeah, it's bloody well worked feeling when it does all come together. On the right is what I should have done. And the main difference is the cars are not attached to the outside of the wheel. they're attached to the second inner circle, support band, whatever you want to call it. They're connected there to give the car enough space away from the ground. So if we were to put a plane to these two images so you can see the problem, as the car comes round the wheel on the example on the left, it will impact the ground and it won't be able to spin. The car on the right, on the other hand, will. I knew going into this project I wanted it to be big and bombastic, and I wanted it to be like nothing that the community had ever really seen before, similar to last year. But because of that, I think I put a lot of expectation on myself to make something truly earth-shatteringly good, only to realise that it's not practical in the time that I have. But I wanted to get it done. I wanted to commit to it. Creation is an act of will. You are willing something into being.
Go! Go! Wait, why is that now getting... You shouldn't be getting stuck on there, stupid. Yeah, baby! It works! Yeah! Look at it go! Look at it go!
Especially when it's something that people just haven't seen before. And I think as this community grows, as this Wasteland toy car modding, world expands and expands faster than any other community I've seen grow, we are slowly doing everything, and we are slowly making one of everything. And very soon we'll reach a point where someone will say, "Oh, I just had this amazing idea," and someone else will go, "It's already been done, and it was done back in 2017. Here's a picture of it," and be like, oh, I guess I won't do it then. Oh, it's a strange thought to have. But no, I knew going into this I wanted it to achieve a certain number of things. I wanted it to be bigger than everyone else's wheel, certainly. You got to have the biggest toy in the yard. I wanted it to be able to spin. If this is going to be one of my toy cars, the wheels have got to roll, or wheel in this case has got to roll. So it needs an axle, it needs some central support around which the rest of this monstrosity could turn. And then of course, I wanted it to be the best. I wanted to really pour my heart out into this thing, and at the same time have it practical to disassemble it so I could post it to someone at the end of the competition. Now, I think looking at this, a Ferris wheel by its very nature. Hollywood films, TV shows, yeah, fantastic. What a concept. Of course it makes sense. In reality, these things are designed to just crumble under their own weight if they ever actually break free of their supports. If they ever actually start coming loose, yeah, they don't roll down the street and crush people. They just collapse straight down or fall over. They're not designed to hold their own weight. So of course that had to change. But you have that moment where you look at it and you realise, oh, I need to make a radical change. And it doesn't matter if it's 2 weeks into the project or 3 weeks into it. At some point you have to go, no, in order for this to progress, we have to make the change now, because otherwise it's not what we envision it to be. This is the ultimate part of this competition, and indeed why these competitions are so fun. It's because even if you are experienced and a veteran and an expert in the field, you're still going to come across things and go, my God, how am I going to figure this one out? How am I going to work around this? And sometimes it is just a matter of going, okay, let's, not start again, but let's fix this. I mean, when it came to the actual design and stylings of it, I had this sort of Cuphead 1950s-esque kind of graphic vibe to it. So the colour palette was going to be very muted, black, white, yellow, red, and that would basically be it. But at the same time, it's something that's recognisable. I hadn't actually seen the Mickey Mouse Ferris wheel until I started this project, so I like to think there are certain things that just sort of are naturally imprinted in our minds. but it is an iconic look, and that was something I wanted to kind of bring over, and that's through the colours, that's through the shapes. I started watching, I like to try and get inspiration from a whole variety of different areas, and I started watching these Blackpool, Pleasure Beach, hidden skills videos, like people that do the signs, the actual lettering along fairground attractions. Because more often than not, you Google something like post-apocalyptic fairground ride, and it's the same kind of like Chernobyl-esque scene where things have, you know, nature's overgrown it. You don't tend to see the, you know, Mad Max-like Wasteland side of a fairground apocalypse. I did leave some big blank areas as well, so for whoever I do send this to, or did send this to, they would have plenty of room to improve it. Because I think ultimately coming away from this, I know it's not perfect, and it can be improved, and changes can be made, and things can be added to it. And then you see the state of it after French airmail has gotten their mitts on it, and oh my goodness, they were not gentle when it arrived. Absolute destruction, my goodness. I don't know. It's hard. It's easy to make a video when it all goes well. It's hard to make a video when you're looking at something and it all seems to go wrong.
Mache Mentrack.
And I will certainly say this in regards to the entry that Mache entered and won, and quite rightfully so. What can I say? A year ago I predicted that this man would go on to do great things. Oh, absolutely. Work of art. Absolute work of art. Like, without a shadow of a doubt. You know, it is a truly fantastic entry, and credit to him. So that, I suppose, looking at the finished product then and everything that happened, is this the last Ferris wheel I'll ever make? Well, I don't know. I've got ideas for how I could improve this moving forwards. I had ideas on how to improve it while making it, but the time pressure, it gets to you. Am I happy with it as a finished entry? No. No, not compared to Dead Reckoning from the year before. There was something special about that one. And that is that for Bozo's Big Top. So I sent it over to Molinaro Dominique, because at the end of the day, I love his work. I love his entries. And as you can see, he has restored it to its former glory and featured it in amongst all of his builds. So it's nice to know that it's at a good home. It's being well looked after. And what can I say? That is the end of 2021. That's it. So now we've got to think to the future. We've got to think to this year, 2022. Well, don't get me wrong, there's one or two surprises, but let's just say there's going to be a lot more involvement this year than there was last year. I think 8 months is a bit too long to wait to see what I have in store for you. Thank you all for watching Wasteland, and stay tuned because there will be many more videos on the way. Thank you and goodbye, Wastelanders.